and welcome to the Tie Back Tank Sew Along. Today I'm going to show you how to create a hack for the tie back tank where you can add sleeves. Sleeves are nice if you just want to keep your shoulders covered a little bit more from the sun, or if you would just prefer to have even long sleeves if you want to be able to wear this during the winter. That's my intention. That's what I'm going to make, is a long sleeve tie back tank. I like to have the ventilation in the back when I'm running, but it is nice to have my arms covered so I don't get too chilled. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. You're going to need some supplies to get started. The first thing that you're going to need is some tracing paper. I like to use this medical exam paper. This is the same kind of paper that doctors have in the offices that they put down on the exam table. And so it's nice and thin. It's easy to manipulate, kind of like the pattern tissue paper from a paper pattern, but it's really inexpensive. And so I like to use it for hacking patterns because if I mess something up, I don't feel bad crumpling it up and throwing away. It also folds up really nicely for storage. So I like to use this medical exam paper. I also have a couple of pens in different colors that I'm going to use to show you how I'm tracing around and cutting around the different patterns. And then you're going to, of course, need your pattern. You're going to need the tie back tank. You're going to need the back piece and the front piece. You won't need your bands. Those aren't really going to change. The band and binding pieces are going to be the same. So you're not going to need to change that for the neck. And then you're also going to need the green tee. This is a free pattern from Green Style. You can find the code for the free pattern in the pinned post of the Green Style Creations Facebook group. And I'll put a link to that here so that you can download that for free. And you're going to need the front of the green tee pattern, the sleeve, and the back. So those are the pieces that you're going to need today to get started. Now, a quick note about the green tee sleeves. It only comes in short sleeves. It's a free pattern, so it only comes with a short sleeve option. But it's easy to lengthen the sleeves, and I'll show you how I do that when I get to that point. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to grab your tracing paper, and you're going to grab the tie back tank back piece. So I like to roll out my pattern tracing paper, and then I'm going to take my tie back tank piece, put down my pattern weights. I like to use these metal washers, and I'm going to take my pink marker and I'm going to trace all the way around the edge of my tie back tank. Including that arm. This pattern has options for a racer back or a little bit more shoulder and arm coverage. I'm using the racer back on this one, but this hack would work with either version. You want to make sure when you're tracing that you mark the center back notch here, and then I usually just put a little line here to show where I'm going to be hemming the back piece. So that's the tie back tank back. I can remove that now. Fill in this little spot that I missed here. And then I'm going to get the green tee back. And you want to make sure that the center back line of the green tee is along the same area as the back of the tie back tank. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this inner shoulder corner and I'm going to line that up with the inner shoulder corner of the tie back tank. The tie back tank is narrower here, but that's okay. I'm just going to put those together just like that. And then I'm going to make sure that my angle creates an even distance along here. The tie back tank is going to be larger. It's going to have more here than the green tee, because the green tee is meant to be cut on the fold and is meant to be more fitted. But as long as that angle or that distance all the way down is about even. You don't have to measure, but I just kind of eyeball it. You should be good. So then I'm going to take my purple marker here just so you can kind of see what that looks like. So the difference is clear. And I'm going to trace that shoulder seam down around the arm side. And then this is where I'm going to be blending it into the tie back tank. It should blend pretty easily. The armhole on the tie back tank is much lower because it's a racer back tank top. But since you're going to be adding sleeves, the armhole is going to be higher and it's going to follow the green tee. So if I remove that, then you can see this is my new back piece. So I'm going to cut all the way around, following the purple line when I'm at the shoulder and the arm side down around here. Now remember that these are not going to be cut on the fold. You're going to cut 2 mirror images because you want it to be split open in the back. So I'm going to cut that out. I like to cut it out before I get to my fabric because I feel like it's easier to cut my fabric accurately when I do that. So I'm just going to take my rotary cutter, go along the edge here, and cut it out now so that I have that piece. And there is my new back piece. So I'm going to set that aside and roll out some new tracing paper so that I can show you how to do the front. So you altered your back piece, now you're going to alter your front piece. So I'm going to take the tie back tank front and I'm going to lay it out on my tracing paper just like I did with the back. And I'm going to get my pink Sharpie marker here. I love all different kinds of Sharpies. It just makes life more interesting. I'm going to trace all the way around. Now, my front piece may look slightly different than yours because I have lowered the neckline. I'm still nursing my baby and I like to have easy nursing access. So I've lowered this about 1 3/4 inches. So yours may be a little bit higher up here. The actual tie back tank pattern as it's written has a high neck and a low neck version. This is 1.75 inches below the low neck version. And this time I'm kind of altering that curve too. And that's an adjustment you can make even if you're not nursing. You may just simply prefer a lower neck. So that's an option. So I've traced all the way around the tie back tank. Now the front of this is going to be cut on the fold. So I always just like to make those arrows to remind myself where the front is. So I'm going to set my tie back tank front piece aside and grab the green tee front. And again, you want the center front of the green tee to be on the same side as the center front of the tie back tank. So just like I did with the back, I am going to take that inner shoulder seam and I'm going to line that up. Now it doesn't, if you have the angle in the front the same, it doesn't quite line up there. So I like to move it over just a little bit to make sure that that seam is right along there. And then again, making sure that this is straight. And then I'm going to trace along the shoulder of the green tee, down and around the arm side, and then down, blending it with the side seam of the tie back tank. So you can see how that looks. I also like to soften this curve just a little bit just so it seems a little bit more natural. So this is how I had done it, and I'm just kind of drawing a new line there. But this is going to be the front. And I'm going to go ahead and take my rotary cutter again, cut around that. Don't forget this one's going to be cut on the fold. Okay, so I have my new front piece. And I have a front and a back. Now I need to deal with the sleeves. So again, if you're doing short sleeves, you're just going to use the green tea sleeve as it is. Has the hem allowance built in there. If you are wanting to do long sleeves or 3/4 sleeves though, you're going to need to change it up a little bit. And I'm just going to show you briefly how I've done that. The first thing I did was, roll out my tracing paper and trace the green tea sleeve, but I folded up this hem allowance. So I did that. And then I also kind of took it and taking into account that seam allowance of 3/8 of an inch, kind of held it up to my shoulder and then measured the point from this point of my shoulder all the way down to where I wanted it to stop on my arm. In my case, I'm going to be adding some cuffs. I think I'm going to try to add some thumb hole cuffs just for fun, which is not necessarily something I'm going to cover, but you can just add plain cuffs if you don't know how to do thumb hole cuffs. And I measured that distance. So for me, from the point of my shoulder to where I want the cuffs to start was about 16.5 inches. So then I just took my ruler and following the angle of the green tea, I just measured down about 16.5 inches. And I did that on both sides. Something important to note about the green tea sleeve is that it's not symmetrical. So you can't cut it on the fold because it's not the same in the front and the back. The way we move our arms is not the same front to back. And the green tea sleeve, this is one of my favorite things about this pattern, reflects that. So it fits really well. So you want to make sure that when you're doing that, you're marking the back and you're marking the front. I like to mark 2 little clips for the back. That tells me which side is the back, and you want to make sure to mark the top of the shoulder seam where it's going to meet the shoulder seam of the front and the back. And then of course, if you're not adding cuffs, you want to add in a hem allowance. So, add in whatever hem allowance you want to use. I like to use, 5/8 of an inch for my cover stitch. It's just easy for me to fold up and use that way. So that's going to be how you cut the sleeve. And then you have all the pattern pieces that you need. The pattern has an option for a binding or a band around the neck. You're not going to be using the armhole bindings or bands because you're not going to be having a tank top if you're adding the sleeve hack, but you're still going to need something to do the neck. I like to do that last because that way I can measure and get it exactly right for the type of fabric that I'm using and the depth of the neckline if I've changed that at all. So I don't typically cut that out right away. But if you've done that, then you come over here and show you cut my pieces. I have my sleeves. I haven't cut my cuffs yet, but I have my sleeves that were cut as mirror images. I have the front of my tank. I just love this hex fabric. I got it last year from So English, and I've been saving it for just the right pattern. And then I have my back pieces that again were cut as mirror images. So now that you have all of your pieces cut, I'm going to show you how to attach the sleeves. You're going to follow the instructions in the tie back tank pattern as far as hemming the 2 back pieces and attaching the front and the back at the shoulders. So I've hemmed the back and then I've attached the front and the back at the shoulders. But then you need to do something a little bit different because you're not going to be adding a binding or a band, you're going to be adding sleeves. So what you want to do is lay your tie back top right side up and grab those sleeves that you cut. And you're going to take them and match them right sides together with the top. Now you should have cut a little notch, gotta find it, where the shoulder seam goes, and you want to have the shoulder seam toward the back. So this fabric doesn't press well, so I didn't press it, but I'm going to be putting it toward the back. So I'm going to put a clip there. And then remember that you notched the back of your sleeve piece. So I'm doing this correctly because the back is going toward the back. And then I'm going to match the bottom of the arm point here. And put a clip there. I'm going to come over and match that same point on the front. So I've got all of this right sides together. This is called sewing your sleeves in flat because you're not sewing them into a round hole, you're sewing them into a flat piece where you're going to sew in a line. So sometimes I like to put an additional clip or two in between the shoulder clip and the underarm clip. And then I just take it over to my serger and serge that sleeve on with a 3/8 seam allowance because that's what the green tea use. So I'm just going to serge right along there. So I've gone ahead and I've serged the sleeve on, and now I need to fold my top. I'm not calling it a tank anymore because it's no longer a tank. So the sleeve is right sides together, and the front and the back side seams are right sides together. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put a clip in there. And then I like to make sure that this underarm seam matches up well. So I like to put a pin in there and then check. I actually didn't do a perfect job of lining up my sleeve there, but it'll be all right. Put an extra pin in there and then come down the sleeve over here and just put a couple clips in just to hold that together. So now I can go back to the serger and I can serge down the arm all the way to the underarm point and then down the sides. And I'm going to do that for both sides of my top. So now I've gone ahead and I've sewn the sleeve, serged it, right sides together, and then all the way down. Now you can kind of adjust the sleeve to your preference. So the first time I did it, I tried it on and I felt like, well, I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more fitted. So I just went ahead and sewed a deeper seam allowance there, and then down the side. So if I turn this right sides out, now you can see we have something that's starting to look like a top. The front with the sleeves and the back that's open that will tie at the bottom, or if you prefer, you can overlap it as suggested in the pattern and just sew along here and hem it up together. So that's how you do the sleeve hack for the tie back tank. As per the pattern, you'll be adding the neckband, and then of course you'll want to hem the sleeves or add cuffs and hem the bottom. But that's the meat of it, so I hope that that's been helpful for you in doing the sleeve hack, and I look forward to continuing to sew along with you.